Welcome to Behind the Veil. I'm Daphne. I will be your host and guide through the journey of weddings, faith, and marriage. Get ready to go behind the veil. And today we have an amazing couple who go by the name of Ada and Mikes, and a little bit about them. They were actually the very first couple whom I shot their wedding. Yeah. You know, BTS Maven, when I started my services, they were the very first couple that I gave my services to. So I'm really excited to have them on board. And today we'll be talking all things, you know, wedding planning. You know, they managed to plan their wedding for under 15K, I believe. And also looking at the first year of marriage and how that has been for them. So it's been a little over 1 year, hasn't it? So they're here to talk to us, you know, take us behind the veil, looking at, you know, planning the wedding, and then also, you know, the first year of marriage, what that looks like.
Yeah.
So, hello, Michael and Ada, how are you?
I'm okay.
Yeah, we're good, man. I'm good.
It's good to have you on board.
No, definitely. It feels full circle.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, it's great. It's great. Actually, this is amazing. Like, I've just seen their journey unfold. They're also good friends. So, yeah, I'm just happy to have them on the pod today. So, let's just get started. Yeah?
Yeah.
So, let's look at the wedding planning. Let me just take you back, you know, take your minds back to the wedding planning process, right? Tell us, how were you able to have your wedding for less than 15K? Like, how did you guys decide on that budget? How did you guys stick to it? Just give us a brief, you know.
Yeah, go for it.
Do you want me to? So we started dating in 2020, and then after a year of being together, we were like, okay, by the end of the following year in 2021, whatever we save, we're just gonna run with that, basically, because we were like, you know, we don't want to just date for long, or you know, we want to honor God in marriage. Like, we don't want it to drag.
Yeah.
Like, 1 year is not a long time, but like, we were very conscious of that, at least. And I think we wanted to do everything within 2 years. So because of that, by the end of 2021, what we saved by that point was £10,000.
Okay.
So we saved 10K. And so we said, all right, cool, we're going to run with 10K. That's going to be our budget for the wedding. As much as possible, like, I think at one point we were trying to get it down to like, it's just spending 5K, 6K, but we realised that wasn't possible. But we were like determined to not spend a great amount on it. Obviously, we have other responsibilities after just the wedding, like having the marriage itself. So yeah, we had 10K, and we were like, okay, cool, this is what we're going to do. By the end of the wedding, after everything being done, in total, we spent 14K.
Okay.
So of our own money, however, we spent 10,000. And the 4K was gifted to us. So that 10K that we budgeted, that's what we used. But still, if someone was going to go replicate our wedding, it'll be 14K that they would spend. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's how we got there. And
also, inflation matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how realistic it would be for someone to have a 14K wedding now. Obviously, there will have to be certain things that are compromised with, but yeah, it's. I guess, yeah, to some degree, it's still possible. The choice of venue matters. Yeah. The season that you choose to get married in, because the day that you choose to get married in, even as far as the time that you choose to have your wedding for, all of it matters. And so, those are all minor things that we took into consideration, which, you know, brought our total to 14 bags.
But so, we had our wedding in October, which is like off peak. It's not like you know, the expensive period, and we also did it on a Friday, so on a weekday. So that was cheaper as well. But I just remember like breaking my head trying to find the cheapest vendors possible. Yeah. And I think obviously you have to remember quality as well as like just trying to keep everything really cheap. But yeah, I feel like I was determined. Yeah, we're gonna find, like, I think our decorator who did all the decorations plus our cutlery, our cups, and everything, it came up to about
just under 1,800.
Under 1,800.
Yeah.
Okay, what he said, because I couldn't remember it, but it was cheap.
It's been a while.
And I remember we will be like searching until like 10 p.m, 11 p.m, and one day, we were at Michael's house and we were really researching, and I think we were finding all these random links, and then Michael found this link. And when we called them, it was like 10 p.m. and they answered.
Yeah.
We didn't think they would, but they answered. And they're like, yeah, it's fine. Just come and see us. They're based in Bethnal Green. Like, following day or like 2 days, we went to Bethnal Green.
Stephanie Green, I think.
Stephanie Green.
Yeah.
And everything was just sorted. That's a vendor that I recommend. I really love that vendor. But yeah, we're just breaking our head because our priorities and stuff like that. Like, things are more important after the day. So
So speaking about priorities, what was some of the priorities that you had for the wedding? So you said 10k and you managed to spend 10k, and God being so good, your family managed to help you guys. What were the priorities that you kind of set for yourselves in terms of, we want to have a 10k wedding? We know that probably wouldn't stretch as much. So what were some of the top things on your list that you really wanted?
First top thing was understanding that marriage is an institution that started with God. And so God desires in all things for our obedience. And so, you know, just from what I've realized is when you keep the dating phase for long, it becomes very easy to fall into, you know, all kinds of temptations that you probably wouldn't have wanted to do so.
And not even only that, like a comfortability, like almost acting as if you're married before you're actually married.
Yeah. And so that was something that became an ultimate priority, that we want this to be recognized before God, and that's the relationship that God recognizes. Everything prior, man recognizes, but, you know, an engagement is recognized by God. But barring that, there's nothing else that's really, there's no sacred covering or any of the kind. So we wanted to make that a priority for ourselves. And also we wanted to be an example towards others that, hey, having faith in God does produce results. It might not always be the results you desire, but it's always going to give a God glorifying result. And when that happens, he gets pleasure from it, and we are also satisfied. And not just satisfied, but you gain pleasure from it also. And so that was a priority for us. I don't know if Adam wants to make mention of anything else from that.
I think Mike was championing like a lot of things, like remembering that we still need money after the day.
Yeah.
And so he was very big on that. If we can save a certain amount, just in case anything happens in our 1 year or after, like, who knows, people have gotten pregnant in their first year. Like, you know, just things that you don't expect. And then obviously coming into a home, you remember that you need to get furniture, and it's all expensive as well.
And I have expensive taste.
He has expensive taste. You know, honeymoon.
Yeah.
Like, I think when we booked our honeymoon, we were like, so how about the money we're going to spend when we get there? You know what I mean? Like, it's not only the 2,000 or 4,000 you used to book the honeymoon, then it's the money that you spend when you're there. Like, you know, all that sort of stuff. So Michael was very big on having money after the wedding. So there was just no way we could spend more than necessary. Also, another priority that I think the encouragement and the advice that we got from like wise couples and trusted people, just not to compare to other people. And that was like, just, you know, run your race, do with what you have. You don't know what other people have been able to do. Because, you know, Instagram, you see people having such glamorous weddings, and you almost feel the pressure, like that's how it's supposed to be. So yeah, just kind of reminding ourselves to run our own race and do with what we have. But yeah, and
even to add to that, you know, having conversations, because a lot of my closest peers are in marital seasons or in the marital space. And it was one of my closest friends, he compartmentalized how we could approach it. He goes, you're going to have to pick a priority. And this is not everybody's portion. Some people have the financial capacity to do everything at the same time. And, you know, that's amazing. But for those of us that don't, and those are the ones that we're really trying to address, because not everybody's sitting on 30, 40, 50,000 pounds just laying there. You know, the average person doesn't have that money, and their parents don't have that money either. You know, so it's like, you're going to have to prioritize. There's 3 events. It's either the wedding, you're going all out for the wedding, you're going to go all out for the honeymoon, or you're going to have a bunch of money after these 2 events. You're going to have to pick your poison. Which of, it's like, he goes, at best, you can probably do 2 at best. You won't be able to do 3. And this is just for the general average Joe. You know what I mean? And I think that's the personnel that we all, that's the demographic that we always want to address. Not those that are, you know, that have got everything. That's it's easy for them to do everything. But for the average Joe, it's like, okay, it's either honeymoon, wedding, your honeymoon, and then okay, the housing stuff might be put to the side. You might have to rent for a little bit or something, or you're gonna save money on your honeymoon. Oh, sorry, you're gonna go crazy for your honeymoon. So you're gonna go to Bali, then you're gonna go to, I don't know, South Korea, then you might go to Ghana or something crazy. You know what I mean? Or wedding, you're gonna spend 40, 50 G's on it because it's a day you've been looking forward to for your whole life. Then you're gonna end up doing a one bed. You know what I mean? None of those things are bad. It's just a matter of picking your poison. So that helps bring clarity as to how to have a more calculated, a more methodical approach towards things. Okay.
And we were only gonna use our own money. Like, we weren't gonna borrow or we know people who may have gone into debt, to get extra money for their wedding.
And I never borrow money. I despise. That's not from a friend.
You gotta say that.
No, I have to say that. I don't ever borrow money. Neither do I ask my parents for money or nothing of the kind. And especially when weddings approach, people are naturally expecting a parental handout. Or my parents said they're going to help us and this, that, and the third. But you two have decided to walk down the aisle. If your parents don't agree, how does that look like? They might not give out money because they don't agree. So you're going to have to be within your own capacity and say, we have enough to get this done and cross the aisle by God's grace. And so, those are the things that we definitely consider. And sometimes our parents just don't have the capital. That's the truth, which is a present reality for many of us. So,
So did you guys have planning tools that helped you to kind of also make sure that you stuck to the budget that you had set for yourself?
Yeah, we had an Excel sheet that we were using, to track everything. The budget was there, and we could see how much we were spending within the budget. If we were getting close to the point where we're going over, because there was little extra things we wanted to add. We didn't have much money to do favors, so we got our friend to help us do sweet boxes. But even that, we were tracking it to see, if we were to do this, would it take us over there, and things like that. So our main resource was just the sheet, to be honest. And with that, we were able to just track every single thing.
And you were able to do, obviously, your wedding day, it was both the white wedding and then it was also a traditional wedding, all done in the same day, and you managed to keep within that budget. So that's amazing. So what advice would you give to those people who are trying to have a budget wedding? What are some of the main things that you would say to them?
I think the main thing is priorities. I think that's the biggest thing, because I think you need to really remind yourself so that you don't get, you don't compare and you don't look around and think, maybe I should have done it like this, or this is the sort of wedding that other people like, and your guests typically like these type of weddings. But if you remind yourself of your priorities and what's really important between you two, at least if that's really shared between you two, because I think for me anyway, Mike was really championing that, and I jumped on board, and it felt okay, it doesn't matter what the pressures are outside. This is what we want to do. And I was really encouraged when I saw one of the couples that you did BTS for, who I think they only did a court wedding. I don't know if there's anything else. I thought that was amazing. And the dress was simple. You could see that, you could get something like that off typical Pretty Little Thing or something like that. So at the same time, God honors that marriage. Just, he doesn't care that it wasn't the big wedding. So I would tell that person to just hold on to their priorities, hold on to what matters most to both of them. And I would say start early with planning, because it's going to be hard to find people who cheaper vendors. Because it took us a long time to find some of our really great vendors who were inexpensive and worked for us. So I would say plan early, use your friends, speak to people. You'll be surprised who's willing to bless you and help you during the time. But I really just encourage them, to just keep their eyes on the goal, at the main picture, so they don't get discouraged. Because even for myself, I've never wedded before, so you're looking
it's all new.
Is this how I'm supposed to do it? But I'm not doing it like that. So am I going to be happy on that day? But I was very happy on my day. So just holding fast to what's important to you guys.
And it was a beautiful, beautiful day.
And it also, I think it depends how much you have. Again, if somebody has 50,000 to spend, I mean, your possibilities are endless. So I would just say use the money well. I'm not a financial advisor in any regard, but use the money well. But something that's just come to my mind now is that I think for weddings especially, not to brand it as the girls' day, but ultimately what we need to try and turn away from or be conscious about, that's the word I use, be conscious about, is that don't make your wedding the pinnacle of your happiness. You know what I mean? So you're investing all of this money so that you can find this euphoria of happiness. It doesn't exist. And in reality, like, you know, everybody knows about Disney, but Disney is full of much disaster. And there's so much calamities that happen along the way. Things go pear-shaped. And so if I'm to tell somebody about, you know, they want to do a budget wedding, I would always tell them, don't place all of your happiness by investing so much so that this day is, you know, it's a day that you remember all the goodness, because even then, there's always going to be things that may go pear-shaped that you might not be aware of. You know what I mean? Just because you're not aware of it, that doesn't mean it wasn't a situation that happened and that somebody didn't have to step in and help mend that situation, because egos come into play, culture comes into play, and so many other things come into play. So that's what I would advise anybody. If they were to have that.
I think it's interesting that you said that, because I was having a conversation with my coordinator actually, and she was like, "Oh, Daph, your day was perfect, but you know that there were certain things that happened and I wasn't even aware of it." And she was like, "Oh yeah, this is what happened." I was just like, I would have been none the wiser. Like, I did not know what was going on. So yeah, that's very true. So thank you for taking us, you know, behind the veil in terms of, you know, your wedding planning. But I want to move on to first year of marriage. We want to hear about that. So Michael, can you, what has the overall experience been like? Is it what you expected? Is it what you heard about marriage so far? What has been your experience?
I would have preferred Ad to go for this one first, but ultimately, like, Ada's grandmother said something, and I think it's the perfect way to describe it. It's not too sweet, it's not too bitter, and I think that's probably the perfect way to describe it. Ada's grandmother, obviously, she was married, and unfortunately she lost her husband at an early age. But in that description, it just reminded me that love is very consistent. And so what my expectation, I didn't have a unrealistic or an expectation that was what would I say, lofty, because I guess I'm surrounded by married men so much. I'm in a 2-parent home by God's grace. Mum and dad are still together after X amount of years. So my expectation, I think, it's been good. The first year has been good. It's been steady. And you know what it's like? It's like a hike. It's like an upward climb towards something. But as you're doing it, you know, you're speaking to your colleagues and as you go along the way, and like, how far have we got left to go? And sometimes you're just enjoying the process. You know, that you go that you're taking upon the journey. But yeah, ultimately, it's been really, really good. It's been really, really, really good. Yeah.
What would you say?
Yeah, I'll say it's been good as well. I think expectations, I don't know if I had, I don't know. Actually, because you would be able to know if I had lofty expectations, to be honest. I feel like the other person would be able to know. But I didn't have like much things like in mind, consciously anyway. But you find through marriage that subconsciously you had
you had some expectations.
Because when something happens and the way you react is like, so how did you set that expectation on them and things like that? But overall, I think it's been beautiful. And I say it's beautiful in the sense of like, even in the midst of like the challenges or the way life goes sometimes, for me, like, I would always describe marriage as beautiful because it's just simply is that, like, just dealing with all that stuff with this person, or, you know, going through certain things together, having the highs but having the lows. Like, I see that as beautiful because I believe that that's what marriage does for us anyway. But we had a lot of different things going on in our first year outside of ourselves. You know, family, we had an ill parent, you know, we just had a lot of different things going on. And so I saw it more so like, you know, between me and Mike in the home is always great, but then there's always the things that's going on outside and then how we now deal with that. So that was interesting in our first year. Obviously, we hadn't married before, so we were just figuring it out. You know what I mean? So obviously there's points where, you know, we will have difficult conversations or navigating how to go through that. But I love that, like with marriage, like Mike said, it really is like an upward climb. Like you just keep going, and the years, by the grace of God, just keep getting better as you learn each other more, as you understand each other more. So the first year has been great, but like for me, I don't think much about it because I'm more excited for like 10 years like, and in comparison to first year, because I know people who used to say like I love my wife or I love my husband more than I did when I first met them. Yeah, and I couldn't understand that at first, but now that I'm married, I understand it. Yeah. Like you go through life more, the love is different in year 10 versus year 1. Yeah. So yeah, it's been amazing, but we had so many different challenges that we had to go through, and I thank God that, you know, God's helped us through it all. Yeah. Okay.
I remember having a conversation with you, and you mentioned the fact that I would always ask, you know, how are you and Michael doing? How are you? They're like, yeah, we're good. You know, but the thing is, we're good, but things that are happening outside is like just bringing so much into the marriage. But both of you are fine, you're doing fine, but it's just the external things that are coming against you type thing. So yeah, that's just something to things like that will happen. So yeah, you just have to hold on to each other and move forward. So in terms of challenges, of course there will always be challenges. What are some of the challenges that you guys experienced, and how did you navigate that in your first year?
No, go for it.
I think the one that I mentioned prior was having an ill parent.
Yeah, man.
And that was quite hard because we got married in October, and then by December, our parents started having pains, and then by like March, you know, it was full on, like, you know, now everyone...
To this present day,
you know, it's now like, okay, being there for that parent, caring for that parent as much as possible. And that was hard because your first year of marriage, you've come in, it's butterflies, excited, and then you know, now you have to do some big boy stuff basically. And honestly, it wasn't always easy. Like in the beginning, I think we just kind of threw ourselves into it, and it's also not as easy when it's not your parent. So I'll say that from my experience, because it's like you're not in that person's shoes, but you're now one, so you have to figure it out. So we threw ourselves into it in the beginning, but later on we found that plus the other responsibilities that we would have, like maybe babysitting our goddaughter, or we had quite a few situations that mentally, like just in your general life, was still getting me personally down anyway. And Michael was there to support me in how to deal with that. Plus all the different things that we have going on. We found that we didn't have as much time for each other at one point. Like we realised that, this week we haven't really sat... Like we like to talk because we were great friends before we got married. So it's something we love to talk, always talking. And you'll find that once you come home, okay, we need to do X, Y, and Z. By the time it's like coming to 11, 12, need to be in bed. X, Y, and Z. So... yeah, that was hard at first, and because of that, sometimes us not having time for each other will cause disagreements. So it wasn't often, but it would be a disagreement where, okay, you know, we might part our ways because it will be like disagreements in the morning. Michael needs to go to work, then I need to go to work, so you can't really do anything. But we thank God for the community that we have as well. I think one day we had a disagreement, and Michael spoke to two of his brothers who are really good friends of ours, married couple as well, and they gave him just God-centered advice. Not taking his side, not taking my side, neither was there any sides. It was just neutral advice. And I remember he came home and he spoke to me about what they said, and it just really brought me back to earth, sort of thing, and reminded me that, okay, it's me and Michael dealing with this particular thing, not us against each other. And it really unified us again in that moment, and then it gave us a better approach on how to sort of tackle it now. So we're still figuring out how to do it, but it helped us learn how to just communicate more in that area, not set sort of silent expectations or keep things in. It was really interesting, and we're still going through it, but I think that was probably like one of our biggest challenges, because we really had to sit down and figure out, well, I mean, we might be upset with how things are going, but it's going, like it's happening. Exactly. So we have to figure it out. So yeah, that's kind of how we dealt with it, and having godly community around us like really helped. Obviously we were praying and X, Y, and Z, but having people who can sort of advise you, encourage you, things like that, really helps us to like get our minds clear and see the bigger picture again.
Yeah.
So
I guess the biggest challenge that from my perspective, which bled its way into marriage, is that before you get married, you have an expectation as how you might want things to be, and it's not even in terms of I want this to be clean, I'm expecting this to be cooked and so forth. It's not domestic. It's more so your visions and how that how those two things mesh. So I knew Az was creatively exerting herself prior to even acknowledging my existence, and as time goes on, I'm expecting that to continue. You know what I mean? But when you get married, you realize you're not actually marrying because you share the same desires,
or
interests, because those things are subject to change. One day, for example, Ada can be ill. She can, let's say hypothetically speaking, Ada can fall terminally ill. Now, those things that she was taking pride in no longer can become the things that I was, marrying myself to, because those things don't exist no more. So that's something that I learned very, very quickly, that don't get married to somebody that just shares the same goal, because all goals and all visions are subject to change. We like new things, we learn new things, we discover ourselves each and every single day. So in the same way that I'm big, obviously me and Ad have had a series of conversations about me feeling free, but I'm big on just freedom of expression within the boundaries that the Bible permits us to have. And with that, I wouldn't want somebody to impose upon me being free. You know what I mean? Again, within the boundaries that the Bible gives to us. And likewise, I wouldn't want to, in turn, do that to Ada also. So it's about just learning how to navigate those things and not intrude. I'm expecting you to do this. Like, what's happened to this YouTube thing? Like, we need to get our dream going. We need to blow. And we get it. Like, money have to make and all of that kind of stuff. But those things can really, especially for men, those things can really be an overarching, underlying theme. We don't talk about it much, and we feel like it's only the woman that expects a guy to have 100 bands and so forth, and be making this, driving a German, and all of that kind of stuff. But I think men have that ever so slightly. It's just an undertone that I want my woman to be a go-getter. You know what I mean? You gotta be on board. Like, you know what I mean? That kind of language there. And that can be dangerous. It can be really harmful. And so that's something that I just learned in a matter of days, weeks. Let's put that to the side, and let's leave that at the feet of Jesus, and then we proceed from there.
In terms of, I know that you guys had what do they call it? Marriage counselling. How did that kind of help you, Michael, to be a good husband? Do you think you're doing a good job of being a good husband? Is Ada telling you you're doing amazing, sweetie?
I think I'm doing a fair job.
I
say I'm doing a fair job. I will never say I'm doing a good job, because I journal a lot, I write a lot, I read a lot as well. And so because of that, I'm always reflective, and not that I make myself a new moral goal every single day, but I'm consistently seeing, okay, this is where I fall short. For example, today we were doing a Bible study this morning, and I've already done my own Bible study prior to our joint one. So I make sure I wake up early, and I spent my own 2 hours just looking at a certain amount of passages. And Ada's woken up later than me, and so I've gone into the kitchen. I've just putting something away, and it's the bin is not. It's looking improper. Let's just put it like that. And it's just like, so I've now come back knowing that we're just about to have Bible studies, and I'm a bit annoyed by that. You know what I mean? And then immediately as I said it, and I opened my word afterwards, I was like, I'm sorry, man. I should have addressed that in a better way. I shouldn't have let my annoyance stem over into this. Maybe I feel like you should have taken the bin out yesterday, and you was home, I wasn't home, and small things. So in terms of marriage counselling, yes, you realize that marriage counselling is not a one-time event. That's what I'm realizing. It's a continuous event that has to be practiced. Now, that can be practiced through therapy, it can be practiced through church and so forth, but for me, I've seen the influence of it through the friendships that I've built, and my friendships have been anchors in my life. I owe my life to them. You know what I mean? Even the ones that are not married have played their heavy role in enjoying the fruits of marriage. And so that's what I would say. And ultimately, the community of saints, you know, continuously rubbing against you, creating that friction, creating that heat, reminding me to, you know, remain upon this narrow path. So yes, marriage counseling was amazing in itself, but it's a continuous act that takes place far more frequently than just the sessions that you have prior to getting married.
I love that you mentioned friendship. I know that quite a few people that I've spoken to that have recently gotten married, they're like, oh, I want to have more married friends as well. I want to, obviously I know I have single friends, and I can talk to them about certain things, and some of them I can't talk to them about certain things. Do you think that it's important to have married friends as a married couple? Or like, what are your thoughts in terms of having like single friends?
Absolutely.
And,
You must have married. You need it. You need to have marriage friends. I just think even with marriage in itself is still within the confinements of a community. And so in the same way that you was once single, now you're married, you also need to be around those that have been married for X amount of time, because you're now in a new space of life, and the wisdom that can be imparted, the joys that they're telling you you're going to experience, those are things that just are overlooked maybe for short-term pleasures or short-term goals. But I would say it's imperative, and not just have married couples that are at your age, but if you can have married couples that are even further ahead, they've been married for 10 years, 20 years, and you know, they could be mentors. But I'll use the word friends, because when you build a trusted alliance between yourself and them, it goes a long way in strengthening you guys. And it just, I remember just before we got married, we was having issues upon issues, and it was just a subtle word by one of our big brothers, PB. He just said something that just stilled the waters. When I say still the waters, I mean be still. Christ, be still, saying it to the waters, and it just stilled the waters. Not that he is Christ, but I'm just using it as an example. And I think that provides such a wholesome picture and allows us to reflect on things, you know, in a much more Christ-centered, Christ-exalting way. So
fantastic.
Yeah, but I think you said it all.
Yeah. And I'm going to ask that one final question. In terms of your faith, how has that helped you guys in marriage and your partnership? How has your faith what role has it played?
Yeah, it's a big part of our marriage. It has to be, or I don't know where we'll be. Just in general, I mean, it's God who made marriage. There's no way you think you can do it without him. So certain disciplines that we've put in place, such as like having our joint Bible study, things like that, have really anchored our marriage in regards to like our communication, being unified, even just understanding each other, being more patient, bearing with each other, like if something is a bit annoying and stuff like that. And I can see moments where we weren't as vigorous and consistent in it, and where it didn't do us too well. Not saying that it's rooted in our spiritual disciplines, but to come together and be united in the word helps us like completely. That, as well as like we would do, and we still do, like bi-weekly meetings where we talk about how our marriage is going, you know, things that we've liked, things that the person has done well, things that we want to do better, things like that. Like, funny enough, like we hosted Christmas, just this one that went by, and when we sat down later to have our bi-weekly, we realised like when we're both in precious situations, it's not working well. Like, in the sense of like I think everyone basically came late, and we had like prepared, and you know, we were a bit like frustrated because we wanted to eat early as well. So we were both like frustrated, but we weren't frustrated at each other. We were just frustrated at the situation. So I remember we were in the kitchen and we were like, no, Michael's like, I'm a bit frustrated, you know. I was like, I'm even a bit frustrated. So we're like, okay, don't worry, let's go out there and like, you know, bubble ourselves up a bit. So we went out there, and then we're picking at little things. Like I might say, oh, like, is this like this to Michael? And he might say, is this like this? But because we're both annoyed already, like that was annoying us even more.
Even more, yeah.
So we sat down and realised, okay, we need to do better in those situations, like to help calm each other down and like not annoy each other further and things like that. So those bi-weeklies like help us, and it sets like a good time to like have those conversations. Because sometimes if you just have it, I know as a woman, honestly, because we do it, if you just have the conversation anytime, sometimes it may feel like an attack. The other person may feel a bit defensive, like, rah, we were having a good moment, now you're coming to tell me X, Y, and Z. But sometimes when you set a time to do it, it's much more well received, because everyone knows, okay, today I'm going to hear
time,
some good or bad things. And lastly, we do like, we've always done it really, but we always forget that we do it, but we do it all the time. Like every night we'll speak about, we'll say nice things to each other, call it nice things, but it's basically what the person has done in the day that we really appreciate. We'll talk about our day, so what's the highlight of your day, and then we'll say a prayer and go to bed. But those things, I think, those intentional things that have spanned from our faith has helped us and anchored a lot of things. But yeah, above everything, like our faith is at the center of it all. Like, you know, when I remember during our counselling, I think it was, our pastor saying to us, like, someone always has to play the fool, in the sense of like someone always has to submit. And obviously that's rooted in our faith. So there's situations where, or disagreements we may have where, you know, I have to remember, or even Mike might have to remember, okay, for this thing to calm down, someone needs to submit, or someone needs to play the fool, in essence. So yeah, it's helped us tremendously, as in it's the bedrock. Or I don't know where else we'll be, you know what I mean?
So, my dad told me that saying years ago. In marriage, somebody always has to play the fool. And so that's something that I always remember. So some days you just keep quiet. You just not every day the discussion needs to happen there and then. But in regards to faith, the one thing that I was going to emphasize is that the Christian faith is built on love, but it's so practical. And sometimes, for example, when it tells us just, you know, love hopes all things, love believes all things, love is patient, love is kind. You know, we just say these sayings, but it's actually practicing it. No, love is actually patient. Mike, just be patient. At this moment in time, Mike, be kind. Love is of long suffering. So when a parent is unwell, this is what it looks like. But we still hope in all things that, you know, things will be restored to, you know, the manner that Christ wants it to be. And so there is a practical level that can always be applied from the faith. But ultimately, it is the bedrock. And finally, not to get into, make it a theological class, but our relationships are a mirror between Christ and church. And we know that the relationship between Christ and church is a gruesome one. It's not as beautiful as people make it think, because we play the role of the prostitute all the time. And we say, yeah, God, I love you through these songs. And then 2 hours later, we might be somewhere else shaking it up and doing all kinds of nonsense. Shaky. A little shaky. A little shaky. Hey, that's bad. That's bad. A little shaky. Yeah, man. And then that, you know, that's just a reminder that, bro, we are two broken people coming together. And then even within the Godhead, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, there's a family there, there's a community there, there's a friendship there, there's unity. And in everything that they do, they're unified in their decisions. So, you know, the world came into existence through unity. And so whenever we're building our worlds, whether it's children, whether it's your career goals, unity must also be applied. And so when I think about those things, it's just a reminder that, yeah, you know, let that be the foundation of it all. And from there, you know, springs of his glory shall come from both of you.
Fantastic. And one final question to both of you, just a brief answer. Aja, what has the first year of marriage taught you about being a wife?
Ooh.
And then, Michael, for you, what has it taught you about being a husband?
Okay, about being a wife. Okay, well, what it's taught me, what I always pick out from the first year of marriage, is that there's always a reason to say sorry, and there's no one there's never one person is right, one person is wrong. Even in a situation where
not never, I guess
I say it in the sense of like, even in a situation where someone has this, I minus like really big situations where like people have gone through domestic and things. I don't want to put it in the same category as someone feels like I am, but I'm talking more so to the little disputes that you may have, the little annoyances that you may have you know, even taking the situation Michael was talking about today, he apologized for being annoyed, but what he wanted from me was to be more vigilant about those things. And so on that side, I can apologize that, okay, I wasn't vigilant. And what I'm trying to say is that if we all kind of seek or kind of look within ourselves and see where we may have done wrong, everyone feels validated, everyone feels heard, everyone feels unified. So it's more so like, you know, I could have spoke to him in a certain way that was terrible and I should apologize for that, but he might look within himself, and he does it a lot, and finds that, okay, cool, yeah, maybe the way I spoke to you before, So I'm just saying, like, for me as a woman, it's easy to point fingers. That's how I feel like anyway. For the women that I do know and the sort of house I grew up in, someone is wrong and someone is right. And so when we first have our first disagreements in marriage, for me, I just wanted him to apologize because I'm right. What you did was wrong. But that's not how it should go. That's what I learned.
I guess on my side, one thing, what have I learned about being a husband? I had it in my mind and it just slips my mind. Yes, not being oppressive. That's, I think I'd take, that's something that I'm really, really conscious about. Not that I have possessed that characteristic, I believe anyway, in any way, but let the woman be free. You know what I mean? If she wants to explore this opportunity, or if she wants to do this, let her go forth and do it. You know what I mean? I think sometimes it's so easy to cage people into your own identity, into your own way of how you want people to look. And I say that because our parents, especially from the African culture, Western African culture in particular, and all of Africa in all due fairness, have this domineering like view that, oh, I want my child to be a doctor. So they almost, and if they didn't become a doctor, that's why they want, most likely they want you to become a doctor. So they're living their lives through you. And when you don't go through the route they want to, it creates so much tension. So one thing I've learned is letting Ada be free and allowing her to explore herself. Like, if you want to change your hair, change it. It's not everything is going to be done because, oh, my husband likes it. Something's going to be done. Yeah, I'm gonna try this out and see how it looks. Okay, cool. Like, I don't know how I feel about it, but give it a go. Let's see. You know what I mean? And what I'm going to be learning is that in the beginning, you might not like it. As time goes on, that might be exactly what you like. And so allowing yourself, giving yourself room to let them explore themselves. As you are knowing yourself and learning about yourself, so too are they. And what else would I say? Last thing that I would say is that you got to be intentional. Intentionality matters a great deal. Whether it's from your Bible studies or whether it's from the time that you spend communally with one another, all of it matters. And so when you're not intentional, you allow, you know, there's almost, you lose structure to how you go about things. And I think that's, you know, imperative to making sure that, you know, the engine is still running efficiently, and that, you know, you guys are giving each other the best of yourselves. And so that's what I would say. There's probably a thousand other things, but that's what's come to our mind first. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys for coming on Behind the Veil with BTS Maven. Thank you for taking us through, you know, your wedding planning and your first year of marriage. And I pray that it will continue to be sweet. And hopefully we'll have you back at some point. A couple of years down the line, and we'll see. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and also stay connected with us on social media. Until next time, stay tuned for more glimpses behind the veil.